Welcome everyone to High Pressure Boiler Training Camp, where today we will be discussing the most interesting and fascinating subject of all, steam traps. That's right, the mythical unicorns of the boiler industry, the steam traps. This is for educational and artistic purpose. Please like, subscribe, share, and support. Feel free to donate for content creation to my Ethereum or Bitcoin address listed below. Let's dive right in. Steam traps, types, and selection. A steam trap is an accessory that removes air and non-condensable gases and condensate from steam lines and heat exchangers without a loss of steam. Steam traps increase the overall efficiency of a steam plant, and if condensate is not removed from the steam lines and heat exchangers, it could lead to water hammer or cause the heat exchangers to become waterlogged, thus reducing the heat transfer rate. Water hammer is caused by mixing steam and water and can lead to a line rupture. Steam trap location is important. Steam traps are located as necessary to achieve the most efficient condensate removal. Let me repeat that. Steam traps are located as a necessary piece of equipment to achieve the most efficient condensate removal. The main steam header in the boiler room must be equipped with a steam trap. A steam trap must also be installed at the base of a steam riser, and heat exchangers such as fuel oil heaters, hot water heaters, radiators, and steam jackets require steam traps. So I'll run through that one more time. Heat exchangers such as fuel oil heaters, hot water heaters, radiators, and steam jackets all require steam traps. There are several types of steam traps. They operate in different ways and perform the same function. A steam trap usually has a steam strainer installed on the inlet to prevent scale or other particles from entering the trap. The temperature drop across a trap varies considerably for the different types. This temperature drop is called subcooling. That will be on the test, or a tidbit of knowledge to put in your hat. For me, let's read this 3 times aloud. The temperature drop is called subcooling. The temperature drop is called subcooling, and hopefully that's downloaded to the old memory bank. The amount of subcooling can vary from 2 degrees to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Some traps continuously modulate condensate flow and have little subcooling. Other traps back up condensate in steam lines and have much more subcooling. Thermostatic steam traps. A thermostatic steam trap is a steam trap that contains a temperature operated element such as a corrugated bellows. A thermostatic steam trap is also known as a balanced pressure thermostatic steam trap. So we'll go through that again. A thermostatic steam trap is a steam trap that contains a temperature operated element such as a corrugated bellows. A thermostatic steam trap is also known as a balanced pressure thermostatic steam trap. The bellows is typically filled with an alcohol and water solution that boils at a few degrees below the saturation temperature. The amount of alcohol in the solution can be increased to increase the sensitivity of the trap. Most thermostatic steam traps operate with 20 to 40 degrees of subcooling, but traps with less subcooling back up more condensate. We discussed that earlier. Some designs may have a built-in strainer. Discussed that earlier. When steam heats the bellows, the solution boils and the pressure increase causes the bellows to expand. This pushes the valve head up to close the trap, and if air or condensate is in contact with the element, it cools and contracts and opens the valve to allow the air or condensate to leave the trap. This type of steam trap is good for venting air during startup and operation. Float thermostatic steam traps. A float thermostatic steam trap is a steam trap that contains a thermostatic bellows or another thermostatic element, also contains a steel ball float connected to a discharge valve by a linkage. I'm going to read through that again. A float thermostatic steam trap that contains a thermostatic bellows or another thermostatic element also contains a steel ball float connected to a discharge valve by a linkage. When condensate enters the body of the trap, the float rises and the valves open to allow the condensate to flow into the condensate return lines. If there is no condensate in the body, the valve closes. The trap modulates the discharge to match the condensate flow at saturated steam temperature. Thermostatic element opens only if there is a temperature drop around the element caused by air or non-condensable gas in the trap. When steam enters the body of the trap, the thermostatic element opens and closes only to discharge air and non-condensable gases. The float opens and closes the valve to discharge condensate. These traps are generally used in plants with pressures up to 125 psi. Man, there's many different types of steam traps. You have the inverted bucket steam trap, bimetallic steam traps, thermodynamic steam traps, moisture separators, selection and maintenance of steam traps, testing steam traps. Okay, so there are several types of float thermostatic steam traps. And let's just go real quickly and review these types of steam traps. The inverted bucket steam trap. And let's get back to the basic law and principle that many of these items are named after the actual function that they perform or the shape of the equipment, or both. Inverted bucket steam trap. Well, it is an inverted bucket and it is a steam trap. So they're easier to identify because they do look like a bucket, in my opinion. An inverted bucket steam trap is a steam trap that contains an inverted bucket connected to a discharge valve. When condensate fills the trap, the bucket loses buoyancy and sinks to open the discharge valve. The steam and condensate enter the trap from the bottom of the inverted bucket, and if only steam enters the trap, the bucket will become buoyant and the valve will close. This type of trap has no condensate backup. Bimetallic steam traps. Bimetallic steam trap is a steam trap in which a temperature-sensitive bimetallic element controls a small discharge valve. The two parts of the element expand and contract differently when exposed to temperature changes, thus opening and closing the valve. The opening and closing of the valve depends on the temperature differential within the chamber. Thermodynamic steam traps. A thermodynamic steam trap is a steam trap that has a single movable disc that rises to allow the discharge of air and cool condensate. A thermodynamic steam trap is also known as an impulse floating disc or a kinetic energy floating disc steam trap. Pressurized air and or condensate continues until the flashing condensate approaches steam temperature. The high velocity steam under the disc recompresses, building up pressure in the control chamber above the disc. This pressure forces the disc down to the seat, ensuring a tight closure with no steam loss. Steam pressure in the control chamber acting on the total disc area from above holds the disc closed again against the inlet. Pressure from the smaller inlet seat below. A condensate collects in the trap, and it reduces heat transfer to control the chamber. The pressure in the control chamber decreases as the steam in the control chamber condenses. The disc is then lifted by the inlet pressure, and the condensate is discharged to repeat the cycle. Thermodynamic steam traps open and close quickly with no condensate backup. And that may be the one takeaway, is thermodynamic steam traps open and close quickly with no condensate backup. There are so many different types of steam traps. Trying to remember them all is difficult, and that's why I'm here doing this right now. I feel we've just hit 10 minutes. We will discuss moisture separators in the next video. Thanks for hanging with me. And I hope you have a positive and productive way, after all that, positive and productive day. Thanks for joining.